Welcome, deep divers. Have you ever stopped to think about how even the most innovative companies out there actually operate day to day? We tend to picture giants like, say, Tesla as these completely self-contained powerhouses, right? Just pushing boundaries all on their own. But here's something that, well, kind of cuts against that idea. If you dig just a little, you find even Tesla relies on some really deep strategic alliances across the globe. Yeah, it turns out even Tesla, can't quite do everything without leaning on some major players, especially in Asia. Today, we're diving into one really fascinating example, the partnership between Tesla and Samsung. We're going to pull back the curtain a bit, look at the hidden dependencies, the strategic moves, and maybe surprising ways these huge brands rely on each other.
That's exactly right. Our mission today really is to unpack the why behind this specific alliance. What exactly does each of these tech giants get out of it? And maybe more importantly, what does it tell us about the future? For tech, manufacturing, supply chains, not just in cars, but, well, everywhere. We've got some great insights from our source, Tesla-Samsung Alliance, strategic advantages for both to help us figure out the mutual benefits and the bigger picture.
Okay, let's get into it. It does feel a bit ironic, doesn't it? I mean, Tesla, the company known for like relentless innovation, trying to do everything in-house, that whole vertical integration thing, designing and making as much as possible themselves. And yet here they are forging these deep ties with a massive conglomerate like Samsung. It kind of makes you think about that whole self-reliance idea, doesn't it? Especially
Yeah.
for these super specialized, expensive components. So here's where it gets really interesting. What does Tesla actually get out of this? What's the strategic thinking here?
Yeah, it's fascinating because despite Tesla's own, impressive capabilities, the strategic reasons for partnering with Samsung are pretty clear. One of the main games for Tesla is supply chain diversification. And I mean, significant diversification. Just think about how vulnerable manufacturing can be today. If you rely on just one supplier for something absolutely critical, like, say, the chips for self-driving or the memory for the infotainment, well, that creates a massive single point of failure.
Right. One hiccup somewhere and production could just stop.
Exactly. A geopolitical issue, a natural disaster, even just a production snag at that one supplier, and suddenly Tesla can't build cars.
Hmm.
So partnering with Samsung, which is this huge diversified company with manufacturing all over the place, it lets Tesla dramatically cut that risk. It helps ensure a more stable, more robust, and definitely a more resilient production line, which is just vital in today's world. It's not just having a backup. It's like building multiple strong supply routes for their most important parts.
Okay, so it's way more than just, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's strategically protecting production from shocks, especially for those really complex parts. But beyond just lowering risk, what about the tech itself? Tesla's all about being cutting edge. How does Samsung fit into that?
Precisely. And that brings us to the second big advantage for Tesla. Access to, well, genuinely cutting-edge technology. Samsung isn't just churning out generic parts, they're world leaders in some very specific, very advanced areas that are absolutely critical for modern EVs. We're talking semiconductors, right? The chips powering things like autopilot and, eventually full self-driving. Samsung's expertise in making these chips, especially the really advanced ones, lets Tesla use incredibly powerful but also energy-efficient silicon. That's crucial for all the complex calculations needed for autonomous driving.
Okay, so the brains of the car, essentially.
Right. And then think about the infotainment systems, those huge screens that are so central to the Tesla experience. Samsung's a leader in high-res durable display tech. That's key for those big responsive screens inside the cars. They make displays that can handle the demands of being in a vehicle, the temperature changes, the vibrations, everything. So tapping into Samsung's advanced manufacturing here gives Tesla a big competitive edge. They get the latest tech without having to build all that specialized know-how internally. It really speeds things up for them.
And I guess partnering with a company the size of Samsung, and they make components for everything. That must mean some cost benefits for Tesla too, right? Economies of scale.
Absolutely. That's a third major point. Cost efficiency and economies of scale. It's definitely a factor. When you partner with a massive producer like Samsung, someone making components on a global scale for phones, TVs, you name it, well, that can lead to pretty significant cost savings for Tesla. Samsung's sheer volume gives them efficiencies that are hard for smaller, more specialized companies to match. So that could mean better pricing on things like memory, display panels, certain chips. And that directly helps Tesla's bottom line, especially as they try to scale up production. Every bit of efficiency matters.
Right, it's not just getting the parts, but getting them at a cost that works for mass production.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And I suppose having Samsung as a partner, since they're always pushing R&D, must also help Tesla innovate faster, like getting a sneak peek at future tech.
That's a really crucial point and maybe one that's a bit underestimated sometimes. This alliance can seriously accelerate Tesla's innovation. By getting direct, maybe even preferential, access to Samsung's R&D pipeline, their advancements in key automotive components, sometimes years before they hit the general market. Well, Tesla can integrate those cutting-edge innovations much faster. They're not waiting around for smaller suppliers to catch up. It basically gives Tesla a front-row seat to what's next in component tech, lets them iterate faster, stay ahead. Imagine testing next-gen chips before your rivals even know about them. That's a huge advantage.
Wow, okay. That's fascinating. So they've got a clear picture of why Tesla, even with all its focus on doing things itself, really benefits here. But like you said, it's a two-way street. Samsung's obviously a giant already, dominating consumer electronics, huge in chips. So what's the flip side? What does Samsung really get from tying up with an automaker, even a really famous, disruptive one like Tesla?
That's an excellent question. And the benefits for Samsung are just as compelling, just as strategic. First off, it's about landing a major long-term client in a market that's just exploding.
Yeah.
Electric vehicles. The
Mm.
EV sector is growing like crazy, right? And locking in Tesla, probably the most recognized EV brand globally as a big committed customer. That guarantees huge, consistent revenue for Samsung's component divisions. It's a massive boost for their bottom line and their future growth, especially in automotive components, which is, relatively speaking, a newer area for them at this scale.
So it's not just like selling some chips occasionally. It's about locking in a core relationship in a massive growth market, kind of foundational for their auto strategy.
Exactly, and that connects to the next point. It really helps Samsung expand its whole automotive component business. Sure, they've made components for cars before, but this alliance significantly strengthens and expands their presence specifically in automotive. It shows they're serious about being a major player beyond just phones and TVs. This partnership basically validates their tech for cars. It tells the whole industry, hey, Samsung can meet the incredibly tough standards of the automotive world. That really solidifies their position.
And it's like a stamp of approval too, isn't it? Being picked by Tesla, a company famous for demanding the absolute best. That must send a powerful message.
Precisely. That partnership acts as this incredible endorsement. It speaks volumes about Samsung's tech prowess and reliability. When a company like Tesla, known for being innovative and demanding, chooses Samsung for key parts, the rest of the market notices. It basically shouts, Samsung's tech isn't just good enough for your phone, it's robust and advanced enough for mission-critical car systems, even for a leader like Tesla. That kind of validation, it can open doors with tons of other car makers worldwide, especially those trying to catch up in EVs. It's almost free marketing.
And I'd imagine being so tightly linked with Tesla, who are right at the cutting edge, must give Samsung an amazing view of where the EV market is going next, like having insider knowledge.
Absolutely. That's one of the less visible but incredibly valuable gains for Samsung. They get direct, detailed insight into future EV needs. The partnership gives them a window into Tesla's innovation pipeline, into the changing demands of the whole EV industry. That kind of insight is priceless. It lets Samsung tailor their R&D, their production plans for what's coming next. They can anticipate the specs needed for next-gen driver assistance or battery systems, basically get a head start on developing the solutions the market will need tomorrow. It's a fantastic feedback loop for them.
This has been really eye-opening, looking behind the curtain at this partnership.
Mm.
It's way more complex and strategic than it looks from the outside. We've seen how both Tesla and Samsung get huge value from this kind of give and take. But if we zoom out now, connect this to the bigger picture, what does this specific deal tell us about the future? For global industries, tech, automotive, it feels like it's pointing towards something pretty fundamental about how businesses, even the biggest ones, are going to operate.
It does raise that important question, and I think it highlights some really key takeaways for understanding the modern economy. First, it just powerfully underlines how interconnected everything is. Even the biggest leaders, companies that seem totally self-sufficient, operate within this complex global supply web. The idea of doing everything yourself, especially for super complex products, those days are mostly gone. Strategic alliances like Tesla Samsung, they aren't just nice to haves anymore. They're essential for innovation, for resilience, for staying competitive globally.
So it's more about collaboration now, not just pure competition, even between the giants,
Yeah.
leveraging expertise wherever you find it.
Exactly. And secondly, this really shows the accelerating convergence of industries. Those old lines between car maker and tech company, they're blurring fast. They're almost gone. Cars today are basically complex, rolling data centers. And tech companies like Samsung, they're playing a central role, not just supplying parts, but as real innovation partners. It means building a modern car needs a much wider range of skills than before, which forces this deep cross-industry collaboration.
And it brings us back to that point about risk, too, doesn't it? In a world that feels, well, pretty uncertain and volatile sometimes, having multiple strong partners seems critical.
Absolutely critical. This partnership really reinforces that idea. Diversified sourcing and strong, genuinely mutual partnerships aren't just good business practice anymore. They're key survival strategies. Think about geopolitical risks, natural disasters, sudden market shifts. Having multiple reliable partners deeply woven into your supply chain makes you way more adaptable, more resilient. The Tesla-Samsung deal is a perfect living example of how leading companies are building these networks to handle future shocks and keep innovating. It's like a blueprint for global industry going forward.
Okay, so just to wrap it up then, the Tesla-Samsung alliance. It's a great example of a symbiotic relationship, right? Driven by clear strategic wins for both sides. And it really highlights how necessary global collaboration and these deep partnerships are in today's complex tech-heavy world. It's about leveraging unique strengths together.
Which leads to a final thought, maybe for you, our listener. As these industries keep converging and global ties get even tighter, what other kinds of unexpected alliances might we see pop up, between companies that seem totally different today? And how might those partnerships reshape the products, the experiences that we just take for granted right now? The future, it seems like it's going to be built on collaborations we might not even be able to imagine yet.
Yeah, definitely food for thought. And
Yeah.
hey, if you found this deep dive valuable, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button and maybe subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you these explorations into, the fascinating world of knowledge and insights. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.